I want money. Like, I'm a professional and I demand to be paid like a professional. If you don't want to pay me because the rest of the industry has gone to taking stuff for free and ruining it for the rest of us, all right. I have a day job. I'm not living and dying by every dollar I get from a sponsor. And it's going to be my way because I hold myself to a different standard.
Definitely. Definitely. That's what I'm about. Exactly what you said. I don't want no, it's nice to get rubs, but I want money. I don't want equipment.
I need rub. I need more free rub. Like I need a hole in the head.
They gon' have barbecue. They gon' have barbecue. They gon' have barbecue. They gon' have barbecue. Your barbecue on. Get your barbecue.
Ever notice how the sound of sizzling meat and the smell of smoke can silence the noise of the world? Now that's barbecue therapy. If the fire moves you, like, subscribe, share, and help spread the message because growth, like good barbecue, takes time and patience. Welcome to your therapy session. Welcome to the BBQ Therapy Podcast. My name is Tavis Bryant, and today's guest isn't just behind the mic. He helped invent how barbecue sounds in the digital age. In 2006, he launched the BBQ Central Podcast, which became one of the most downloaded shows in the genre. Since 2008, Greg Rempe has been hosting the BBQ Central Show, the longest running live fire podcast in the world. He's interviewed legends, broken stories, and created something this community didn't even know it needed. Greg, welcome. I got one rule: make yourself at home. I have no sponsors yet, so speak freely.
You could be inviting a lion into the den here, my friend.
Hey, I'm all for it. If you say it, it need to be said. So that's what we're here for.
Happy to be here.
All right. I'm going to start off taking it back to your origins. Most people know you as the voice of barbecue, but before the mic, who was Greg? Where was Greg from? And what is the single defining moment where fire and food became more than just dinner and turned into an identity?
Originally from upstate New York and ended up here in Cleveland when my dad took a transfer with his position. They've subsequently landed in Sarasota, Florida, where they've been ever since 97. So I was graduating Ohio University at the time in 97. Literally 3 days later, they left Cleveland, went to Florida. I was moving into my then fiance's parents' basement, which is awesome. Saved up a couple checks, got an apartment on from there. In regards to a defining live fire moment,
Mhm.
there wasn't really anything in my youth. I loved when my dad would cook burgers, but he was, no offense to Pops, but he was no Greg Grill master. Certainly there was no low and slow barbecue that was happening in the house. When I got into college, one of my great friends, Brandon, and I thought it would be a great idea to learn how to cook so we could try and get laid in college. So he focused on the inside cooking. I was focusing more on the outdoor grilling aspect. And while the initial plan didn't really bear a lot of fruit, we did become pretty good cooks, especially when you're comparing us to other college students. Where the real interest or tipping point happened was a Father's Day, now a decade and a half, 2 decades ago. My wife got me. So we moved into a house. I got a grill, cooked through the back of it, was going to get another grill, talked to my cousin. Really, the person you should be having on this podcast is my cousin, Glenn Rempe, who introduced me to something called barbecue. He was a barbecue caterer at the time.
Mhm.
He told me, "What are you looking to get?" I said, "I'm looking at this $1,200 Gen Air grill that's all stainless steel, blah, blah, blah." He said, "Why don't you look at a barbecue pit? You could probably still get a decent gas grill and you might save some money. At the time, now you got 2 different ways to cook and who knows." So he's the one that really got me into it. My wife got me a Weber Smoky Mountain for a Father's Day gift. I followed the directions to the T on how to fire it up. I made a horrifically average to below average rack of ribs and thought I was going to put that thing on the tree lawn and either make a planter out of it or just throw it out, because I said, how could I have wasted so much time on something that is really not great? After hearing so much fanfare of how this barbecue was going to change my life, and it didn't. Luckily, digital age, as you had mentioned, just starting to roll out, and I got on the internet, found a website called the Virtual Weber Bullet, which was literally dedicated to this kind of a cooker. At that time, so early 2000s-ish, message forums were like the hot technology at the time. I actually ended up making one of my own. But the virtual Weber bullet is where it started. Everybody's throw away those directions. They're trash. This is how you fire up the bullet. And from there, I learned how to become a much better user and cook on the Weber Smoky Mountain,
Hmm.
but also realized there was an online community. I engaged, I was getting engagement back, and that's where we started rolling down the hill.
Back then, that was dial up and everything else. So y'all were
Yeah.
ahead of the time. Now you got all these Facebook groups and stuff. But people don't know that y'all were doing it back then. You started
Facebook at the time, you had to be a college student to have a Facebook account. Like, you
Oh,
couldn't be
wow.
out of college, you had to be in college in order to have the Facebook.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Learn something new. And you started a forum before your podcast. Do you remember the very first time you posted and uh, felt like, okay, this community is different from everybody else? This could be something bigger? Or it caught your attention when you started it?
Honestly, having been a part of the Virtual Weber Bullet community, and I
Mhm.
was also fairly active on a couple other bigger message forums at that time. So one is still around called the Barbecue Brethren. I think Virtual Weber Bullet is actually still around too.
Oh, wow.
So I knew the concept was scalable, that I think that I could start my own? Not necessarily. I was on an incredibly bad piece of software that was free just to try it. I invited some of the guys that I become online friends with at those various message forums and said,
Mhm.
"Hey, what do you think? Let's try it out. Can it possibly work?" And once we realized we were having some fun just amongst us dudes, I said, okay. I went online and found at least a better version of free software and started to scale it out a little bit. And then we started getting organic growth. And I said, okay, I better actually invest some money here and get my own website address and pay for the software so I can get upgrades and do all these customizations. So it was probably a good year before I realized. So I knew it was going to be in some shape or form an online presence. I just didn't realize how big it was going to get. And I was doing some things that nobody else was doing or allowing their members to do at the time, always trying to be irreverent, always trying to be outside of the box and
Mhm.
not just doing what everybody else is doing just because that's what everybody else is doing. I wanted to set myself apart. Also, being a sales guy all the way through since I graduated from college, I know that you need to bring value. I know ways to sell things. I was able to secure sponsorships pretty easily because I'm used to just doing that from a day-to-day basis. So I was able to generate some revenue, sink it back into the show, and that's kind of how we got going. But did I think it was going to be as successful in the beginning? Not necessarily, but I knew that the concept of message forums was one that had proven out.
I'm actually signed up for Barbecue Brother 4 years ago. I still go on there just to get information. Sometimes I need to research on some of the guests, and sometimes I go to Barbecue Forum just to see what it says about them back in the day and stuff like that. So I still use it a lot. Around that time, were you doing any competing or anything, or how were you meeting different barbecue people? Or just people that you knew, or
Yeah, I've said often that I have had zero interest in competing ever. I think I've done one competition non-sanctioned. It was about 11 years ago at a Hartville, Ohio. They have a grill fest that has just celebrated 12 years. I had since transitioned into being the host after the first year when I was competing, but that's it. So my connections with top pitmasters has solely been because I had an interest in connecting with them, seeing why they do it, and exploring the ways that they were winning, both in an effort to satisfy what ended up being an unrealized dream of being on the radio in some form or fashion, and also wanting to spread information and help just grow the live fire industry in general.
that's one of the reasons why I do it, because I try to be different also and watch other podcasts and try to do stuff differently than they do it. Stuff that I used to listen to and complain about. I try to change that, as well as helping people also, because people might be on the fence about starting a podcast, starting a food truck, starting a restaurant, but hearing somebody else's story may push them over the edge to jump into it and chase their destiny versus trying to be hesitant and not knowing if they want to do it. But That's why basic on origin stories of how people got from point A to point Z, just to boost them up and just to have fun. So I definitely understand. So why a podcast or a radio show? Where did the idea come from, and during what time? It was during the time where barbecue shows didn't exist. Were there any anxiety or anything when you got started?
The reason I did a podcast was because I had just started hearing about whatever that was, podcasting. And there was a guy who is no longer with us, but he ran probably the biggest barbecue forum at the time. Ironically called the Barbecue Forum, bbqforum.com was the website.
Hmm.
And back in the day, that thing was just ablaze with activity. There was a lot of competition aspect to that as well. And he did a podcast. He was horrible, but I liked the concept. He'd end up doing like a small handful of barbecue podcasts, did a tutorial on how he did it, and like everything that he explained, what I come to realize continuing on with my effort was terrible advice. Sounded bad. He was not a great interviewer. It was overall a bad experience. However, I appreciate the effort and the continued idea of trying to press his forum ahead with different technology and
Hmm.
trying to be on the cutting edge of technology at that point. And I said, I love this concept. And if there's a way I can figure out how to do it, there's no way I can be as bad as him. So I will have perhaps the second worst sounding barbecue podcast, but then it would only be, and maybe it would be the best because at that point it was probably me and him and nobody else. So
Right.
I found it was like teleconference software. So I was like dialing in on my phone and the guest was dialing in on their phone. They were combining us together. It was automatically recording. It was cutting edge for the time. But as we sit here in 2025, it seems like it was the most basic bitch stuff ever. And the good news is this: great time to start. Ignorance is bliss. I didn't know I was terrible. Nobody else knew I was terrible. And everybody was available to interview. So it was a perfect storm back in the early 2000s where before it blew up 4 or 5 years after that, got on television, all that. I had access to everybody. Everybody was reachable. So I just had to reach out and say, hey, do you want to come on the show? We can talk about whatever. And as I continued to attract sponsors and get money, I started investing that money back into the show. There was a tipping point where I realized I don't really like the forum anymore, but I really like this podcasting. I had a call from somebody that his business was running forums. He'd figured out a way to
Wow.
make them marketable, make money off of them. He was looking for a barbecue forum. He bought mine. So I took the money and reinvested a lot of that into the show as well. I also was a guest on somebody's podcast, not barbecue related. The show was called You Are the Guest. And the concept of the show was this guy would take requests about people trying to be a guest on his show. If he picked you, he would do research on you and the city that you lived in.
Hmm.
And the first part of the podcast was him interviewing you, and then you could interview him. This guy sounded like $1,000,000, like real radio guy. And I was listening to his podcast and I was like, wow, I got to sound like this guy. So I reached back out to him and I said, the guy's name was Bill Grady. And I said, Bill, you sound magical. How do you do this? And he took a whole bunch of time telling me, this is how I do it. This is the gear that I have. Held nothing back, was a complete open book. And that was really the time when I realized I'm going to sound a lot better immediately because I'm going to get all this stuff. Told me how to hook it all up and use it. And at this point, if anybody ever asks me any questions, I'm going to do my best to make sure that I'm also not gatekeeping any information. You want to know something, you ask me, I'll tell you. If I get really good at it and I'm listening to stuff that I like and I hear there's some pain points that they might not realize, I was actively reaching out and saying, hey, big fan in concept, love the content you're covering, but here are some things that I'm hearing or seeing. Here's some things that help me. Maybe this will help you shorten your learning curve and getting to where you want to go. But then never wanted to be intrusive at the same time. So those were like key points in realizing how I wanted to continue the growth of the show, how I wanted to focus on sound quality first and everything else second. And those were two really big watershed moments in the whole podcasting realm.
That's what it's all about. There's enough listeners for everybody. So just holding stuff and watch somebody fail, I don't understand why people do that. It's not going to kill them to coach them up because there's enough for everybody. And that's why I appreciate and I have people from other podcasts on the show because I admire what they do and I want to give them their props because they came before I did. And I had Luke Darnell come on. He gave me advice. He said, "Oh, start looking in the camera because I got a habit of looking at the screen and not looking at the camera." And I said, I appreciate that because I need to be better and I'm trying to get better. I'm not going to get offended like, why he saying that? No, you give me a criticism that I need to get better. So if you invest in that time to coach me up, I'm not going to get mad about it. I'm just going to get better. You helping me and stuff like that. So that's why I admire people that does that. And like you coming on here and saying that you're here to help people, I admire that also because you're a pioneer. So you have no choice but to respect what you say because I knew of your show, but when I started researching you for it to come on the show, I didn't know it was back that far. And when I started digging into videos, and I'm like, man, that's young Malcolm Reed. That's young Meathead. I was like, they didn't
A
even
lot
look
of young
like
everybody 15, 18 years ago,
so I'm like,
including me.
that's what I'm trying to be like. So it's not like we're in competition. It's like I'm trying to I look up to you and what you're doing, and I'm strive to be like you, not overtake or get mad if you say, okay, you need to do this, advise this. I like just and when I looked at your LinkedIn, I saw about sponsorship. I'm gonna ask you about that at the end because I need to know more about that. So that's why I brought you on just to get more information. And there's other people out there that have podcasts that, even though it may not be barbecue, but it may be something that you have stuff to help them boost more into what they're doing. So I definitely appreciate what you're doing out there. Did you have any naysayers when you first started? Anybody saying you crazy for doing this or
No, nobody knew anything about it. Like I said, perfect storm, perfect time. Nobody knew I sucked because nobody had anything to compare it to. I thought at worst I would just be talking into a microphone and putting something out that nobody was listening to, but it was fun and that's all that really mattered to me.
So so you started with a podcast, then you switched to live.
Yep.
So what was the podcast on? Was it like an iPod or just internet or?
I found a piece of software that generated podcast feed, and then I would just record a long format show, edit it down to the best 20, 30 minutes, and release it once a week. Did that for 2 years. Between '06 and '08, there was an influx of other barbecue podcasts at the time.
Mhm.
So to set myself apart again, I wanted to try a live show and found a guy that was opening up an internet radio station in LA and through Craigslist, of course, because that's where you find everything. And I called him, told him he was looking for on-air talent to start filling holes in his schedule as they started to launch. So it was an in-kind trade. We'd give content. He wouldn't charge, would prove out his concept so he could end up turning it into a business. And I ended up being, so that name of the guy was Sam Hassan. The online radio station, which is still in existence today, is LA Talk Radio. And I did 50 minutes once a week. Started on August 7th, 2008, which was actually a Thursday. And then the following week, I got moved to a Tuesday, and that's where I've been ever since. 2008 plus 7 is 5 and 10, so 17 years of live shows, and then 2 years of podcasts before that. But the live show impetus just was to set myself apart from the other barbecue podcasts that were there. I'm like, okay, I'll just do it live instead of pre-recording everything and see how that goes. And a lot of people have come and gone, and here we are, still pumping them out week after week.
Yeah, that's a bold move doing it live too, because you got to be on point and mistakes and all this other stuff. You got to keep moving, but it's very innovative and stuff like that. And preparation, boy, you got to be on it. Did you have a team back then, or just you?
Team, like other people? No, it's always been me. So over the years, my team would be what I consider to be, let's say, recurring guests. So the monthly recurring guests, the quarterly recurring guests, the small handful of embedded correspondents, they allow a little bit more ease of preparation just because I don't have to book. Like I know they're coming in.
Hmm.
They're brand new conversations. I talk to Malcolm Reed once a month for the last 10 years, but every conversation's different. Same guest, different conversations. Same thing goes for the quarterly guest. Same thing goes for embedded correspondence. Now, embedded correspondence will also send me tips or things that they're hearing so I can chase those down. But as far as the week in, week out content and show prepping, it's me. It's always been me. There's never been a team or one other person that has hid behind the scenes. If that was the case, I would be telling everybody that it's me or
Mm.
we. Because usually I'll end up saying we as a mistake, and then I'm like we, and by we I mean me, because that's really what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm at a point now where if I had somebody that wanted to come on, I couldn't figure out the mental logistics to have somebody work in and be a producer, sit behind. Let me show you a
Hmm.
picture here. So sit behind this desk here, be a producer,
Hmm.
and then I would sit off in the guest chair over here, which could be a host chair, and just host from that side. Too many things that are happening here that I've known about for the last 17 years that I couldn't possibly train myself to focus on the guest without worrying what's happening here behind the cameras. It's
Judging your
just
setup.
I've worked into a flow that works for me, single host, engineer, producer, and the good news is I haven't fallen behind the times. I don't need a team, and I don't need to count on anybody to show up every week like I do. I know I'm going to be here, and that's good enough for me.
You don't have to depend on what. And now we're in the age of AI, which helps out greatly. That's how I am. It's just me. And I say me and my wife because she keeps the kids upstairs quiet while I'm down here. But I started out by myself watching YouTube, figuring out what to do, just getting starter equipment and moving up as I go along and stuff. So I won't have to depend on nobody. And since times are different and it's harder to get people, I decided to go the route of pre recording and then release one at a time so I know I can get them on their schedule. And so I won't have to be sitting there waiting and get canceled on and stuff like that because I'm not as well known as some of the other people out there. But I've so far, I released episode 18 this week, but I've recorded actually like 40 something episodes. And so I have a buffer and I don't have to
Yeah,
wait on nobody until I get to
smart.
that point where I can get people to come on regularly and not have to worry about are they coming or not. So that's the route. I know most people won't do that, but that's how I just decided to do mine.
I would stay with it. Like, I think podcasting, your main audience, just like my main audience, the percentage of people that listen to me on Tuesday nights as it's happening is slim.
Hmm.
The overwhelming majority is getting it at their convenience audio download. The numbers prove it out. They've proven it out over the last 17 to almost 20 years. I could drop back into pre recording and the show would be still as successful, except it would feel different. I think I could do some things that weren't as timely or topical and nobody would be any the wiser. But at this point, I'm still interested in the whole live. What happens if the plane goes down? What happens if I lose an engine or a guest drops out or whatever cliche you want to say or analogy you want to make? That's fun for me. In sales, I tell all my new salespeople, you have to get comfortable with being in the most uncomfortable situations. And that's where you're going to really see if you're going to be good at this or not. So, same thing with podcasting. Like, everybody can do it when it's easy, but what happens when it's hard? Those are the people that I want selling for me. Those are the people that I want as hosts of shows. Like, what happens when it's hard? How do you fill time? Do you have stuff ready to go because you prepared? Is it seamless? Are you worried? Are you able to feign that at least you are confident because 18 minutes of what was supposed to be a great interview segment is bad because your guest lost internet or totally forgot about you or fell asleep in the chair or whatever, and now
Yeah.
you got to carry an extra 18 minutes that you didn't plan on.
Mm.
Burned early on that. Only took one time and figured out a way to not have that happen again. So that's really what I'm trying to accomplish.
When I started, I didn't think it was gonna be as hard as it was. It's a little bit harder than what folks think it is, just popping on, talking, and going about your business. But
Everybody thinks it's real easy to just get on and talk for an hour, right?
exactly, you
Yeah.
got to have your stuff together, whether it's researching the guests and just editing alone and all that. It's a lot to organize it and getting a decent conversation. You got people that don't talk that much, and you got people that talk too much, and you gotta. It's a lot.
Yep.
So I definitely learned a lot since I've been doing this. You stay live every Tuesday for the past 14 years. What's the hidden cost of the consistency, the sacrifice no one sees?
That's a good question. Uh, I don't know if I even at this point think about it as sacrifice. It's just process.
Hmm.
There was a time for many years where my oldest daughter and then my youngest daughter were pretty high level athletes, and they were into softball initially. The oldest one was into softball, transitioned into volleyball. So on those teams, we were at practice facilities 2 to 3 times a week for months on end. And then we were in real tournament season. So we were on the road over the weekends for months on end. After that, it just seemed like it was year round. So there were 3 to 4 times a week where I had 2 and 3 hour blocks, just sit there and hammer on the show. And it became a process. And as the girls have aged out of sports, I've still been able to carry the same kind of mindset, the same kind of process. So I would say for a 2 hour show through the course of the week, I'm prepping 12 to 13 hours a week, not all at one time, but piece by piece as we build into a Tuesday. And the weekend holds the lion's share of that prep time at this point. I'm doing 3 to 4 hours on Saturday, 3 to 4 hours on Sunday, sound checks on Monday. And then after the show on Tuesday, we start building the next show. So me, and that's just the process. So there was never sacrifice. I was never away from the kids. Like I'm at home and then I come home from work and I bury myself in the basement. I was never going to do that. If that were the case,
Hmm.
I would have figured out a way to be around everybody until everybody went to bed, and I would just stay up and maybe do it overnight. But luckily, the girls were really good at sports. I was able to figure out a process there, and it has carried me through.
Yeah, that's how mine is. Me and my wife work. I'm in Georgia, so I work and then she works West Coast hours. So she may start,
Oh,
she works at home, but she starts at maybe 11 a.m. to 8 o'clock. So when I get off, I have to get the kids, homework. We got a 16-month-old, so I have to watch her until she gets finished and stuff like that. And that's why I schedule most of my shows from 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern time because that's the short period that I have to do that. But also, I have to get up at 3:45 every morning to go to work. So that's why I tell
well,
people I
me
love
too.
barbecue. I love barbecue. That's why and that's the sacrifice I have to do. But I
Yep,
love it
yep.
that much that people
What do
think
you do
it's
for a job?
I work for a financial institute, Bank of America, in the fraud department.
Oh, nice. Oh, nice.
And work like maybe about an hour away from where I live. It's a grind, but and then my baby still don't sleep during the night, but
Yeah,
I power through it because
yeah.
I love. Once I got into it, I love doing this. I love talking about barbecue, talking to barbecue people in the community because they showed me so much love. Just because right now I haven't started competing because my daughter and I want to. I'm a father before anything, so I make sure she's up in age. So that's why I started doing this to get a barbecue fix while I wait. But I go walk around competitions, meet people and stuff like that. They're so friendly and welcome me in. Go take a couple classes just to learn as well as make connections. That's how I made most of my connections, just going to classes, talking to people and interacting with them and stuff. But I tell people number one, do your homework on people. Don't wait until you see them to try to learn about them. No, I got more attention just by what, hey, you're so and knowing stuff that other people don't know, and it may surprise them. Wow, he know me. He know a lot about me. That's how you make those connections and stuff like that. But it's definitely a sacrifice, but it's a good sacrifice in my part of doing this. So that's where I'm at.
Heaven forbid you should show up prepared, right? I mean, it's a way to stand out.
Yeah, then but I do. I when I do an interview like you, I go through everything. I listen to the podcasts that you've been on. I go to websites, social media, everything, and dig through to find stuff that most people don't ask or a follow up question. I'm like, why did they didn't follow up on that question? I'll ask that follow up. I'm curious about how they grew up or another job occupation. Paul Keltner, he used to be a bass fisherman, so I was asking about that because I was curious about that because I it used to come on TV every on ESPN every morning, Saturday morning. So I asked about that and different stuff that's that most people ain't gonna ask. So that's what I do. Were there any times where everything failed, like audio or tech crash or a guest that didn't cooperate as well as you thought?
Yeah, all that happens multiple times a year. If a guest forgets or bad guest or tech issues. I mean, it's the blessing and the curse of the live thing. So I always tell everybody this is a live internet show. And the one thing that's even more important than me as the host is the internet. And if the internet is not happening, there's no show. And that has happened already once this year. It's happened multiple times through the life of the show. And we've had plenty of technical issues and echo loops and people that sound crappy through no fault of their own just because the internet bugs are out. And initially it was pretty frustrating, and I'm trying to produce a great product for people, and through no fault of my own or a guest, we're having things that we got to work through. So it's just about trying to figure out a way to power through that as quickly as possible, find a remedy. Or the other thing that I had to learn how to do, and it took a long time, was know when to cut bait. You're on with somebody, they sound like crap, you're not able to figure it out, like 2 minutes tops, and then just dump it. You should have content in your backup that you can fall back on and fill that time. But don't let the crowd struggle through crappy audio. You're not disrespecting the guest. The guest should understand that you have a show that you care about and you care about the listener,
Mhm.
and cut bait quick.
Because I did that the one episode towards the end, it got real bad. So what I did is found a point where it got bad and just made a shorter episode and just dumped the rest of it. And I was like, I
Right.
catch up with them later and get that part again because I'm not going to put anything just to put anything out there just to have it out there. But I was able to get at least 35 to 40 minutes of it. So I was like, that's a good size chunk to go with it. And I stopped it at a decent point where it doesn't seem that it was obvious, but I went with what I had because even though I don't know where this is going, I still want to be professional as possible because you never know what's going to happen or who notices it or sees this and give you opportunity as something else. So that's why I try to be as professional as possible. I know I'm from Georgia. I don't speak the best English and all that, but I do want to make sure everything else is professional as possible within my power and give everybody a good product. And did you have you ever went back and listened to your early episodes? What's the cringiest thing that the early episodes compared to who you are now?
I think just hearing how good I thought the show sounded, and then hearing the product that is produced in 2025, 2024, and my
Mhm.
demand on guests to have USB microphones to sound almost as good as me. I wish I would have done that 15 years ago. I'm sure the technology wasn't there or equipment
Yeah.
availability wasn't there, but it's just hearing like how I sounded,
Mhm.
how I was speaking. That's how I was back then. But as you say, cringy wise, to go back and listen to beginning shows in 2008, 2009, first couple years of the live show
Mhm.
was pretty crazy because at the end of the recorded podcast, so like bridging into the live shows 2008,
Mhm.
those recorded shows were good. I sounded good. I was asking good questions, felt confident, and then there was a whole new learning curve on the live stuff. So those shows were pretty bad. I piped in some bullshit crowd noise, made pretend like I was at a bar doing the show live on location somewhere. That was bullshit. Just to make it seem like it was cooler than it really was. But those are probably the most cringy to me. It's more technical. and sound
Mm.
versus anything else.
What's one part of the production process that you underestimated getting into it?
Always editing. There's no doubt. If you're long forming something for 30 minutes or an hour, then you can count on it being at least as long as it took you to record it, and typically double. I always tell people when they're getting into podcasting, one of the four major things I mentioned is edit. When you think you've edited enough, edit more. Always leave people wanting more. I think if you're long forming an interview at an hour,
Mhm.
you should cut that thing down to about 30 minutes, 35 minutes tops, get the best parts. Because I was always afraid that a guest would be like, oh, it's finally over. I would rather have somebody go, oh, it's over. Man, that was great. I wish it would have went a little bit longer. Leave them wanting a little bit more. You can always get that person back if they were entertaining and
Mhm.
do another version of that or do another episode. But editing is easily the most underestimated time vampire of podcasting.
Okay. Okay. That's
A lot of people don't want to do it because they're lazy. So their show sounds like shit.
All right. You said live audio matters more than polished editing because it creates theater of the mind. Do you think barbecue is losing that mystique as everything goes to TikTok or quick hits and social media and stuff?
So first of all, I'm terrible at social media. Number one. Number two, I am completely unmotivated to post on social media. I don't care. And I know that's bad. I know it's a detriment to my show's growth and all this other stuff, but I still operate under the assumption that nobody gives a shit about what I'm doing, whether it's show related or not, nor do I have any interest in sharing what I'm doing. I don't. So that has really been an issue for me. But I'm 51 and I'm old. I don't give a fuck. So that's probably just going to be the way it is. You can delete all these swear words as well if you want.
No, no.
So that's like number one. But I, so I can watch my show. So it's live no matter what, but we are recording. So then it's going to become a podcast or a video archive. So
Mhm.
I can rewatch the show and hate it. I can listen to the show on the way to work, same show, and go, that show was great. And it's because when I'm seeing it, I can also see when I became nervous about a question, or I thought something bad was going to happen, or I think I'm pausing too long in the video, but that gap in sound doesn't translate into just listening to
Mhm.
the audio portion of it. And I'm able to use that theater of the mind that I say that you had just mentioned
Mhm.
to, make somebody look like I want them to look like, or think about how we're actually interacting on that video conference and not actually see what it looked like. But that's just my preference. So there's been plenty of times when I have gotten done with a live show on a Tuesday and I'm like, ugh. And then I listen to the first hour on Wednesday, second hour on Thursday, and I'm like, you know what? That was actually way better than I'm giving myself credit for. I always prefer to listen to it. By the way, statistics prove out most of the people want to just listen to it at their convenience as well. As far as quick hits and all this other stuff, again, I'm no expert. It does seem to be a lot of people out there that seem to be very good at editing and I guess cooking, and they get a lot of followers. I don't know how that translates into money. That's all I really care about. I want to make money. I don't want stuff for free. I don't want trades. I want money. Like, I'm a professional and I demand to be paid like a professional. If you don't want to pay me because the rest of the industry has gone to taking stuff for free and ruining it for the rest of us, all right. I have a day job. I'm not living and dying by every dollar I get from a sponsor. And it's going to be my way because I hold myself to a different standard.
Definitely, definitely. That's what I'm about. Exactly what you said. I don't want no. It's nice to get rubs, but I want money. I don't want equipment.
I need rub. I need more free rub. Like, I need a hole in the head.
You giving countless people their first media spotlight. Do you ever feel that you're curating barbecue history in real time, and does that responsibility feel heavy as far as the people that you put on?
So there's no question. Since basically 2006, I have documented the rise and evolution of live fire cooking. I never even thought about it like that until a year and a half ago. John Solberg, who happens to be the executive producer of the best moments of the BBQ Central Show in 10 minutes or less, started to take on a task of getting the show entered into the Library of Congress because he feels like it has been an archival study of this particular industry over this period of time. I don't know where he's at actually with that, or if that's even possible, but because of technology, it's
Mhm.
not just we're writing books and sticking them on a shelf. Eventually, they become outdated. This is all on the internet forever and ever. Amen. So, in
Mhm.
15 years from now, if a young Tavis wanted to, or your 16-month-old 16 years from now wanted to hear what it sounded like when you and I chopped it up, or wanted to know what barbecue was like back in 2008, or who knows, you can
Yeah.
find that. Yeah, there's no doubt that I have been archiving the best way I can how this whole industry has evolved over the time that I've been covering it. Do I feel like there's a weight on me? No. I think if I stopped doing it, I'm sure somebody would be able to step in and pick it up in a way that makes sense for them to continue the archival of this industry. But
Mhm.
I'm very honored that a lot of people think that I've been able to showcase that over the last 17, 18 years.
That's I had just recently talked to Rod Gray about KCBS. I'm like, y'all records it's hard to you can't tell what the pioneers did because you can't just Google it like baseball stats or football stats. There's nothing out there to tell me why Darren Worth is the greatest. All I can go is by barbecue data, and it's not showing that he's the greatest. I have to go by what people are telling me, and you can't just go look and find out those stats because it's not out there. And that's why I told him it. We want to know those type of things because when I'm researching, I want to know everything. I don't want to know from 2007 up if they started in 2001, 1999, and all that. And I want the stats out there just like sports stats, and we're not able to see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and hot take coming in, right? KCBS not promoting anything, not doing any extra work. It's like that's just been the way of how it's been under Rod's tenure.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't disagree. I would love to see stat. I know there's a lot of cooks out there that would love to see stats, but that is a project that KCBS would have to actually put a lot of work into. I'm sure there's a money cost associated with that. I'm sure there's some actual cooks out there that care about that as well, that
hmm
are tech savvy, that would be happy to pitch in some time pro bono in order to make that happen. But KCBS would want to have that would want to have that happen first before that's going to go anywhere. And again, I think when extra work is needed, then that's probably not going to be a high interest level to them at all.
yeah, yeah. You
And by the
said,
way, we can argue all day long about who the best competition cook is too. So at
yeah.
this stage of the game, I think there's more than one.
Who are your top two?
So I think Darren gets a lot of mentions right off the bat,
Mm,
and Darren has won a lot. I don't know at this stage if Darren is the greatest of all time. I'm happy to throw in Brad Leininger of Getting Basted to actually be best of all time. I think he's won just as much as Darren has as far as I'm not talking about total, but as far as major competitions, I think Brad has won
mm,
just as many. Brad's won Memphis in May, and Darren has not won Memphis in May. Darren has said on my show a couple of times he's got zero interest in it, but it is a major competition that many
mhm,
people consider something you want to win before you put out the fires for good. And Darren has made his opinion on Memphis and May very clear that he thinks, there's probably some favoritism on certain teams versus other teams. But his interest level in doing that is very limited, if at all. And meanwhile, Brad has gone in there, they've won it.
yeah.
So that speaks a lot. Brad, and by the way, Brad wins like a lot. So he's team of the year multiple times. Darren War's never been team of the year for KCBS. So there's a lot of things that I can make arguments for.
Mhm,
Also, Travis Clark Crew Barbecue, when he was doing it, he was dominating. I think we can at least have a discussion or debate, kind of like LeBron and Michael Jordan. Everybody, of course, knows LeBron is way bigger than Michael Jordan. You can have that debate if you want. So I'm happy to see that there have been a number of really great crooks over the last 10 years on the KCBS competition side of things that we can at least have that conversation. If there was no Travis, if there was no Brad,
mm.
then, Darren stands alone at the top of competition Mount Rushmore without a doubt. They won a lot. They've done it forever. I remember having him on the show back in 2009
Wow.
when there was a great KCBS race going on between him and Rod Gray of Pellet Envy and
Mhm.
Steve Farron of I Smell Smoke, is probably somebody you've never heard of. And it was like a race to the end of the very last competition in Tempe, Arizona in 2009. Whoever won it was going to win Team of the Year that year. So it was very exciting, but that's a different era of barbecue as well. Yeah, I love talking about it.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think just saying Darren is the greatest flatly is uneducated, and
Yeah.
there is debate to have at that point.
That's definitely true. Based on 'cause when I talked to Travis Clark, I love the way he talked because it's so confident and just he reminded me of Kobe, that Kobe Bryant mentality, take no
Yep.
prisoners and stuff like that. And I never been around Brad that much, but listening to him on Barbecue Brawl, he sounded that way also, as well as Darren Worth. Is that they all have that same mentality of going there, take no prisoners, just do what you got to do. But yeah, it's a toss up because you don't know all what Darren's done. But like you said, Memphis and May, that's a big one because it's one of the major ones people consider. And to go in there and win that is really big.
So Darren's won everything else. If Darren wins Memphis and May, then yes, to me, he is atop the competition heat because he'll won everything, to include a Houston Livestock and Rodeo. So
Yeah, no,
I
definitely.
wish he would become more motivated to try and win Memphis and May.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
Darren's always been his own guy too. Like he's never really cared to chase Team of the Year for KCBS, and when he wants to go cook a competition, maybe it doesn't make sense for a points chase, but it's just he loves the people that are going to show up, or he likes the area that the competition is going to be in. And very successful restaurant, very
Hmm.
philanthropic as well. Him and his wife Sherry are just dynamite people. I had a great opportunity to meet him in person when I traveled outside of the state, which is very rarely in Shawnee, or in Oklahoma,
Hmm.
at a barbecue competition that I emceed out there a number of years ago. And hearing him on his show and having him as a guest on my show many times over the years, he's the same guy. Like you ask him all the questions, he'll tell you everything you want to know, and but he does what he wants to do. He's there to win, but it's not at the cost of everything.
Yeah,
If he wants to be somewhere else, if he wants to take a weekend off, like he'll do it. And that's just the way he is, and I love it.
cooking a contest on one drum and deciding to turn in pulled pork at the Jack Daniels and all. It's like a wild card. All right. Podcasting has exploded. Everybody has a microphone. What separates an authentic barbecue voice from just another backyard guy with Wi Fi?
I think you hit it in the beginning. It's doing the prep work. It's doing all the stuff behind the scenes. Like anybody can crack open a mic and just have a weird conversation with a guest or amongst buddies. It sounds like you just picked. So you probably don't know this, but back in the old days, they had these things called party lines on telephones where it was just, you could just pick up the phone, everybody's talking, you just jump in. I don't want to hear a podcast. Me personally, I don't want to listen to a podcast where it feels like I just picked up on the party line. I want structure. I want segments. I want takes. I
Mm.
want opinions. I want all that. And if I'm happy to give a show time to build and see where it's going to go, but if it's just going to be like that, then that's not a show for me. I think what you're getting at is what separates my show from everybody else's.
Mhm.
It's the work that I put in, it's the dedication that I have to covering all the topical stuff that I can within a 2-hour period every Tuesday. It's my commitment to sound, it's my commitment to my guests having great sound, and it's mostly my commitment to providing a product to my listeners that is never hard to listen to, that is never tiring to them, and where now over the last almost 20 years, we've built a community where we can have inside jokes. I can make references that people get, and maybe not necessarily for the new folks, but if they like it and they give the show a couple, 2, 3, 4 show listens, and they feel like they can become a part of the group and become a centralite, then they also can share in the fun and frivolity of all the nonsense that we do every Tuesday while still trying to keep it very professional.
Yeah. I remember those party lines. I'm 49, so I'm close
Oh,
to
yeah?
your age. Yeah.
Oh, you got a 60-month-old?
Yeah, I got married 2 years ago.
Wow. God bless.
Yeah, I waited till late 40s to get married and have a newborn, but
How old's that wife?
my wife is 42.
Wow, look at you guys bucking the trend.
So
Wow.
I'll be 66 when she graduates. So, but I wouldn't trade it for nothing in the world. It's a great experience for
Yeah.
those that haven't experienced having kids. But I have a 9-year-old and a 16-month-old, but I've been in the 9-year-old's life since she was like 4. It's a great experience. I'm
Yeah.
learning because it's new. After all these years of not having just me and then having a family now. But it's fun, the support wise from a wife and all that. It's been a great, if you don't have that great person pushing you and knowing what type of person you are, because I was on the fence about doing this, and if it wasn't for her, I probably would have been still dragging my feet about it. But why not do it? What's the worst that could happen? I was like, you're
Right.
right. What's the worst that could happen? Because I'm worried about, okay, is people going to show up or is anything going to happen? But once I jumped into it, everything started flowing. And now everybody's out there is getting used to me, and it helps out people sending me DMs that, hey, I enjoy your show. I enjoy what you're doing. And it
Yeah.
helps boost what you're doing. And those people out there that do that, it's a great help to know that it's just not falling on deaf ears, that it's helping people and people listening to what you do and entertained by what you do, even though where you might be shaky on it, man, that might not have been a good episode. Somebody come along, man, that was awesome. And it keeps you going and keeps you going and keeps you going when you hear stuff like that. I want to shift in. Let me ask this before I get into the sponsorship stuff. If the BBQ Central show ended tomorrow, what's one conversation or moment that you would carry with you forever?
That's a lot of moments. Holy moly. So the one that really just pops out every time, it's really not that long ago. We had done an induction for our guest Hall of Fame, which we did the 2025 class this past Tuesday. So congratulations to everybody that made it in. John Marcus was voted in a couple of years ago. So what I like to do is take the newest inductees into the guest Hall of Fame and then do the origin story of them for an hour of one of the shows for an upcoming Tuesday. And John just gave an incredible origin story. So, like, to know what his background is and to know how important he was in television when television actually mattered. Cosby Show executive producer and runner for 8 years. Like, when the Cosby Show was at its height, like, John was running that show.
Right.
And then go on and do Different World and all these other shows, and then to see him get into barbecue, make the relationship. He does some really great interviews on my show, gets inducted into the Guest Hall of Fame, and then we do this origin story. And to hear him start, so he originally is from, let's say, southwest of Columbus, Ohio,
Mhm.
and started from there. Was in a band in high school with his brother that really wasn't great. Didn't want to be a doctor from a family of doctors. There was probably expectation that he should be a doctor as well. And just to see where his career, the one thing that stuck with me, I don't know why, is he's recounting the time when he's running the Cosby Show and he's home in Ohio and he goes out for a midnight walk. I think Cosby Show was on at Thursdays at 8 o'clock at the time on NBC or whatever it was. And he's walking the neighborhood and he's looking in homes. Every single home has the Cosby Show on that he can see on the television through the windows. And then I knew, like, finally made it. Like, this is definitely as popular as people are saying. Like, he almost didn't understand it. Like, you can see the metrics coming in from the television studios and advertisers are buying all the space on the show, but to walk the neighborhood and see everybody that had a house there had the Cosby Show on at that point was a magical moment for him. And then just to hear all the other experiences. And by the way, a darling of a man. I had lunch with him in person in New York City back in 2019 when I was in town. My middle daughter had a modeling gig at one of the fashion shows out there. And I met him for lunch at Katz's Deli, and wow, just for as great as he is on the interviews on my show, just as magical in person, maybe even better. And shared a bunch of great stories and a great couple hours in person, which is rare for me. So he's somebody that just sticks out. But oh my God, so many guests, so many interviews, so many great ones because they were great, so many great ones because they were horrible, so many great ones because they were just mediocre. It's tough when if somebody says, "What's your favorite interview?" I don't know. So many. It's tough to go. That's why I like doing the best of show,
Yeah.
which just celebrated 400 episodes. Is because you get reintroduced to what the show was like back in 2008, 2009, like early days, and the guests that we had, and what that show sounded like.
400. Whew. That's a lot.
Just the best of, yeah. I think we're approaching 1,800 episodes on the BBQ Central Show.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who's somebody that you haven't got that you want to get?
I'd love to have Bobby Flay on the show. We'd love to have Guy Fieri on the show. Barbecue wise, like competition stuff. No, I had him. I was going to say Johnny Trigg, but I ended up having Johnny Trigg on the show. I don't know if there's anybody that I haven't had that I've wanted on the show. Luckily, reputation has helped a lot over the years, and also being able to drop names has helped a lot over the years. So being able to get like a Michael Simon. Oh, would love to have Ina Garten on the show. Ina, if you're listening, please come on the show. I love you. Please come on the show. But barbecue and grilling related, I think I've hit all the marks at this point. For me.
Yeah, I got a ways to go. But yeah, there's plenty. I like more. I want to try to catch more of the older people that you don't hear about, so I can catch them before they get too old.
I would like to get Tootsie Tominitz from Snow's Barbecue. She does interviews occasionally. I don't know how hard it would be to line her up. She's getting towards 90. I don't know if she's got staff or handlers or whatever, but I would love to get her on before it's too late.
I got Artie Davis. I can relive some of that where he did, and some of the older people I'm trying to reschedule with Donnie Teal and speak to him because he had scheduled, but he thought it was just audio only, but he was driving, so we have to reschedule that. So I tried to get some of the older people before I just jump into the newer people. All the newer people, they hear some of the history that they don't get to hear about, and some of the how barbecue was back then versus what it is now. So that's what I'm trying to do as far as origin stories and just relive history and stuff like that. But I definitely went and how far did I go back in yours? I think it was 2013. It let me go back, or maybe a little earlier, 12, as far as YouTube. And I was like, wow.
Apologize for the video quality of that.
Man, please. I enjoy that because I like seeing what it was happening back then versus now. So just having it archived like that and be able to go back and look at it or listen to it, I enjoyed it. As far as the podcast, also, I went back as far as I can and started listening to some of the older ones just to hear some of the people I may not know of, or as well as some of the people that are famous now that wasn't famous then, because Killer Hogs wasn't Killer Hogs that it is now.
No doubt.
Meathead wasn't Meathead like he is now, and some of the other ones that came along. You're definitely a pioneer, and you inspired me because I've listened to your show many times. So I enjoy what you're doing. I'm gonna ask you some not sponsorship, partnership. I gotta remember to say questions. You worked with barbecue brands for years. When you first were building the BBQ Central Show, how did you approach your very first sponsor, and what did you offer them in return?
Yeah, it was like cold call 101. So when I had the forum, I was selling, this is going to sound crazy, but I was selling banner ads. So you would show up on the homepage and we had clickable banner ads for the sponsors. So I was just calling up companies and saying, hey, I have a barbecue related forum. If you want to have advertising on these spaces, it'll cost you X amount per month. It's a kind of random rotating image between you and however many other folks I had at the time. And you pay me this amount every month and run the banner for as long as you want. And if you don't want to do it anymore, then that's it. So it was, again, pretty easy for me to reach out
I don't
and
know if
do
it'd be
so being the business guy, I had no problem making the cold calls and trying to do the whole pitch. As far as what I was offering them at the time, it was a banner exposure, and you had people that were interested in barbecue and grilling coming to the website mostly, I would imagine. And so you had a warm market target to go in. Hopefully they would click your ads, and
Mhm.
there you go. As far as transitioning into the podcast, similar concept, but now it was doing audio. So I was producing ads with a voiceover talent in the beginning. And then at some point during the live show, I said, I want to make sure that everybody's still engaged. So
Mhm.
instead of running a bank of produced spots like I had in the beginning, I just started doing live reads to make sure that everybody stayed in the seat and didn't go away and get busy doing something else and never come back to the show. Eventually transitioned over to live reads. And again, it's warm market, it's a big audience. If you have a product or service in the barbecue and grilling arena and you want to get it out in front of everybody, then the show is a great vehicle to
Yeah.
do that. And I never promise that your sales are going to spike or that you're going to see X amount ROI. To me, advertising on something like this is a repetition. That's why I'm not charging $50,000 a month or something like that, like you spend on radio or billboard or TV. It's repetition. So when you are in the market for a grill or you're in the market for a rub or a pellet or whatever,
Mhm.
and you're a fan of the show, you remember I'm talking about Primo ceramic grills. You remember I'm talking about Green Mountain pellet grills. You remember that I'm talking about pecan pellets or whatever it is. So that's the value that I'm selling, and it's because it's a live show, it's changeable. You want to change it every week? Let's change it every week. You want to offer discount codes? Let's offer discount codes. You want to make your own trackable link with slash BBQ Central at the end? Then let's do that as well. I'm not afraid. I will guarantee I will deliver on XYZ every week. And the other stuff, I can't guarantee. I can't make people buy stuff every week, but hopefully, if they're fans of the show, and I always say, you want to support the show, don't send me money. Don't sign up for my OnlyFans barbecue account or my that other thing, a Patreon. I'm not here to make money off the back of my audience. That's why I don't sell shit and do anything weird like that. It's support my sponsors. You want to support me? Support the sponsors. Give them first priority. And that's what's most important to me.
For someone like me building a barbecue podcast today, what's the difference between chasing national brands versus local or regional barbecue companies?
I'm going to tell you something. You don't worry about money. If you get in it for money, you should quit now. Money does not come with barbecue podcasts. You need to focus on your content. You need to focus on the guests that you get. You need to focus on how you want the show to be structured. You need to focus on repeatability, releasing, editing, polishing, speaking. All of that is paramount to your success. You do it, number one, to get into money, quit because you're going to be disappointed. It's not
Mhm.
going to be nearly enough, especially in this industry where people have proven that they will do shit for free, means you are not going to get a lot of money, if any money at all. So I would not go after national brands. I wouldn't go after local brands. I would focus on everything I just said. And if you are doing your side of it,
Mm.
brands will contact you. And
Okay.
then you can start putting deals together. And if you need counsel on how we're charging at that point, happy to jump in and have a conversation with that. But never do this for money, number one,
Mm.
because heartache and pain and suffering will follow.
That's very good. That's very good. And how do you price your sponsorships in a way that is fair to the sponsor but still reflects the value that you're delivering?
Well, so to me, the podcasting world is still Wild West.
Mhm.
So I think you have to generate a price that you feel is good for you. And if you get it, good. You feel like you've gotten it, You've priced accordingly. You know what you want to give to the customer. You know how you want to pitch the customer. And if you get that price, then you've already felt good with that. The customer obviously feels good with that. And then I think you start building a relationship from there. If your numbers grow, if your reach grows, if your popularity grows, then everybody involved should understand that at the end of a month or a contract or whatever you're doing, that can change. And you're having those conversations with them right along. So nothing is ever a surprise or they feel like they're getting raked across the coals all of a sudden. You are keeping them aware of how your progress is happening and that rates will adjust accordingly. And if they don't want to pay it, fine. You have other people waiting in the wings that are ready to jump on board because they see the value of where you're at now versus where you were a year ago or 2 years ago. And rule number one in sales is charge as much as you can.
Mhm.
And if somebody's willing to pay it, then that's the right amount. If you're not selling any sponsorships, yeah, it's because you're probably priced too high or the perceived value by the customer is not there. And those are conversations you need to have with people. Okay, you don't want to pay this amount. Where do you see the value? What amount would you be willing to pay for it? And what do you think you should get for that? Always going back to them. We could get into a whole sales 101 seminar. I don't want to do that because we'll never end up stopping this conversation because I love sales and I
I'm
love
enjoying
business. But
it.
I think we're still at a day and age where you can ask for whatever you want, and if somebody's willing to pay for it, then that's the amount that you're worth with that customer.
I'm gonna definitely try to bring you back on to talk sales 101. I don't That'll be a selfish episode for me, but I definitely want to bring you on and talk
Yeah,
more about that because a lot of people don't know about that. I don't know nothing about it. That's why I'm asking questions now because that's something I was curious about how it works with sponsors and partnerships and all that. So I'm definitely learning something. If they're not interested in this part, they can cut early. But I know there's other people out there that have podcasts and they probably wondering the same thing. So if I'm wondering, 10, 15 other people probably wondering the same thing. So we definitely appreciate those tips and that you're giving. If somebody wanted to start a podcast, what advice would the top advice would you give them?
so I think you got to have a good initial concept. You have to be honest with yourself on, is that concept repeatable?
Mhm.
Not necessarily the same show over and over again, but at least the concept of the show is something that you can replicate time after time. You need to come up with a release schedule. Like, how often do you want to release a new episode? And once you have committed to whatever that release schedule is,
Mhm.
you got to meet it. If you're pumping out 5 episodes a week and that's what you think you wanted to do in the beginning and you've done it for 2 or 3 months, the audience is used to getting 5 episodes a week or 2 episodes a week or 1 episode a week or one a month, whatever that release schedule is. You have to adhere to that. The minute you start deviating, and it's always, I'm so hot, I'm so passionate about this, I'm going to go 5 days a week or a couple times a week, and then it goes to once a week, and then it goes to a couple times a month, and it goes to once a month, and then all of a sudden you're a victim of pod fade, and away you go, just like a whole bunch. So the average time span of a podcast, 4 episodes,
Oh, wow.
and then they're gone. Average download on an episode from release to 30 days out, 175 downloads. So that's just where the data is right now. That's how quick people are in and out. That's a real number on where success looks like from a download number. So adjust your expectations accordingly for anybody looking to get into it. But you have to adhere to the release schedule because your audience is building trust with you. And the minute you deviate from them, there's so many other options. They're going to go somewhere else. Then it's equipment. So make a small investment into, and don't take a loan out, build out a studio, unless you're a celebrity and you got millions or you're looking for the tax break or whatever. But I did not start like that. There's no reason to start like that. You can get a $70 mic that is both an XLR and a USB capable mic from Samson called the Samson Q2U. It looks like you got a nice Rode mic there, but you can get a Samson Q2U for $70. It sounds like $1 million, and you can build into more stuff from there, but there's no need to do an incredible amount of investment to get going. You can sound really good for cheap, But is it very important to have good audio? And then it's editing, right? So edit when you think you've edited too much, you haven't edited enough, because you want to make sure that the audience is not having to exert energy in order to listen. You don't want somebody to be like, oh, thank God it was over. That's really bad. So you lose audience with that. But I think those are like the four things that you want. And be truthful. You're excited now. You're going to be this excited in a month. You're going to be this excited in 2 months. How about a year?
Exactly.
Can you do it for 18 years? Can you do it for 20 years? Be truthful with yourself. Are you just agitated or hot to trot right now, and you really are going to be launching a podcast on a subject that's got like a 6-month lifespan? Answer those questions and then figure out if you really want to do it or not. But those are like the main high level things that I always tell people when they want to get into it. And don't do it for the money. Do it because you love it.
Exactly. I started out with different equipment. My wife surprised me with the Rodecaster Duo and this Rode mic. I was like, I'm gonna upgrade as I go along and go from there. And the camera I use is the Osmo Pocket 3. I have that hooked up to the iMac. So I like it. It's a process. You're not gonna go out with all the best equipment, because all them people that be on YouTube telling people to go out and get this microphone is $700. Then it's all this. You're gonna be broke having dusty equipment sitting around because they didn't told you to get all this unrealistic stuff where you got to work your way up and give you something to shoot for, instead of just going out and getting all this stuff and not knowing that this is your calling or stuff like that. And like I said, I start with where I try to make sure it sounds good and stuff like that with what I have until I work my way up, and then eventually I work my way into a setup like yours. But I use what I had and made a decent background, and not just having a regular wall and or a dark room or anything like that. I got that from YouTube, but I try to put the best setup together that I can to make sure it sound good. I went and got Squadcast with the script and used that, and use a lot of the AI tools that helps out and saves time that they transcribe the podcast for me, which makes it easier because I don't have that kind of time to be editing like you did back in the day. So it helps out where you can just read it and listen to it and delete just by crossing through whatever words that you don't want in there. So it's all about, like I said, doing your homework and churning out the best product that you have.
So the $70 microphone that I told everybody to get if you're going to start, if you know how to use that mic, you know how to be on that mic, and you're in the right room, it's going to take a trained ear to hear the difference between that $70 microphone and a $1,200 Sennheiser or a $3,000 Neumann. People listening to that will never be able to pick that up. If you want to upgrade microphones, you do it for you, and that's it, because your audience is not going to go, oh, it sounds like he's on a different mic today. That must be the Neumann TLM 103. They don't care. They don't know. As long as it sounds good, generally speaking, then that's all they care about.
Yeah, because we have a finished basement, so I do mine in one side of the basement, but I put a room divider, it's right in front of me, and I put the little sound pads on the room divider to bounce the sound, because they
Yep.
mentioned on that about it's just doing little stuff to help out the best I can, because I'm not going to put no sound pads on the wall in the basement. I tried to come up with an innovative idea just to help out with the sound and the echo and stuff like that. Is just doing the best you can until you get to your own studio or setup like you have. So
Oh, I'm just on an unfinished side of the basement, bro. Yeah. I mean, you can see here, this is all unfinished. This is a moving blanket. That's see, like the $12 at Harbor Freight, and there's another one in front of me, and there's another one over here. But it's all, there's nothing fancy here, right? This is all
Oh
green
wow.
screen, moving blanket, unfinished wall taped to the thing. This is perhaps seems intricate or whatever, but in the end,
Yeah.
this is all you see anyway. So I make sure the sound is right, and that's it.
I definitely appreciate your wisdom, and if you have anything to shout out or promote, you can definitely do that now.
So find me on the website, thebbqcentralshow.com. We do it live every Tuesday night from 9 to 11 p.m. if you can't make the live show. Of course, the podcast feed is ever populated. So just go to the bbqcentralshow.com/subscribe, or you can subscribe on all the different podcast platforms. If you want to catch it live, you can catch me on Facebook, facebook.com/BBQ Central Show, where there's a live video feed every Tuesday night with video archives on the show page. You can also watch me on YouTube, which is youtube.com/at BBQ Central Show, where there is not only the extensive archives, but during the live show, we have a YouTube poll question of the week where you can actually vote during the live show on whatever stupid question I've asked of both the audience and the guests. And social media at BBQ Central Show. I cannot promise you that you will see perhaps any new content. I think I've just added something to the feed yesterday, and it's been months since the last one. So don't follow me on social media for an ever-changing and adding bunch of content, but just do it because make a guy feel really good about it. And once the show's over, I'm out of here.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on my show and giving wisdom. And I'm excited because learning something new and having a pioneer on just to tell me your history and where you're at now and how many episodes you have. It helps boost me to keep going and keep pushing. Because I know, but many days you'd be like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. Or dealing with somebody saying, sure, I'll come on the show, and they never hit the calendar link and you're still waiting for them to set up an appointment. Or only one time I had one person not show, and while I'm sitting here in the chair waiting on him 15 minutes, I see him posting on Facebook. Then he come back and tell me that his phone was lost in the lake and stuff like that. And I'm like,
Name him. Name him right now. Let's hate him together.
And I said, he'll never be on this show. I like, because I take this serious. And playing with what I'm doing like it's some type of joke. I don't appreciate that when you're dealing with my time. Just say, hey, something came up, I can't make it. I'll be fine. But if I don't hear from you at all, and you got that calendar thing that pops up on your phone, and then I see you posting at a steakhouse.
Maybe it was the fish that was got his phone because it was in the lake. Maybe it was the fish posting on his Facebook page.
Exactly.
It's probably
posting that I'm at a steakhouse at so, and I'm like, come on. But it's okay. Like each one, if I lose one, I gain 3-4 more. So it's okay. It's part of the pains of doing this. So I got to get over it. And one day maybe I'll get them back on.
Focus on the show. Like really put your time and effort. Don't think about money and don't think about any of that sponsorship bullshit like everybody's talking about, because a lot of the guys that say they got partnerships, they ain't making any fucking money. They're getting a pallet of charcoal or some other bullshit. And pallet of charcoal, I can't bring that to the Guardians game and get concessions with charcoal briquettes. Yeah, so work on that, and then once you start having people reach out to you to start doing that, then we can start having the business conversations.
Okay,
because we'll need metrics at that point, downloads and views and all that other bullshit, so we can. But again, it's Wild West. I went to the HPB Expo a couple of years ago when it was in Louisville, because it was only like 5.5 hours from my house, Cleveland. And I was handing out pitch sheets to every manufacturer there, and my lowest price was $75,000 a year.
Wow.
Now, I got zero, but there's no reason I couldn't ask for it. I ended up putting a deal together with a grill manufacturer where I was getting $8,000 a month for a year, and that was just one of the sponsors. Yeah, and that was only for the year; it wasn't ongoing. But so that's why I'm saying, like, you can ask for something, and it's really more about what people are paying. So, like, I don't do any affiliate marketing bullshit. I don't do anything that ties my income or earnings into people got to do this in order for you to get money. Fuck you. I'm going to do this on my show, and you're going to pay what I want, or we're going to agree that I will take X amount, and you agree you will pay X amount, and this is what you're going to get for it. None of that other stuff. A lot of people with codes and this and that, like they making no money, or they're getting free stuff. So we get paid in my school, Bo.
Okay. Definitely appreciate that. But I definitely appreciate you coming on and giving up your Sunday time. So enjoy your day.
All right, man.
All right. Thank you. We just wrapped up another session of BBQ Therapy. Remember, stay patient, stay passionate, and keep that fire burning. Hit subscribe, share the good smoke, and pay the secretary on your way out. Have a blessed day.